Rambam, Maimonides, and the laws of robbery. Interesting. To be a robber, and there's laws. Of course. Oops. Okay, we're in chapter 4. Our sages penalized robbers and gave a person whose property was taken the prerogative of taking an oath to support his claim, claiming that the value of the goods taken. He may then collect that money from the robber, provided that there are 2 witnesses who testify that this person robbed him. So, penalize robbers, the sages, because how do we know what the value of the stuff was that he robbed? So we take the word of the one who was robbed. That's a penalty, right? Usually you need witnesses, right, for things from a biblical point of view. So there has to be witnesses that the person robbed. You need 2 witnesses. That makes it a biblical parameter of the law, right? But then to the value of it, how are you going to determine that? So he can take an oath, the one who was robbed, and say that this and this was robbed from me. I mean, the guy could be lying, right? If there's witnesses, so we base it on witnesses. Torah says on witnesses. But if there's no witnesses for what he actually took and the value and how much he took, what he took, right? But that he did rob, right? Like, he had a sack of stuff that he took. They don't know what was inside, but they saw that he did that. So he will take an oath and then get the value. So what's implied? If a person comes into a colleague's home to collect collateral, right? If you're not allowed to go into someone's home to collect collateral after you gave him a loan. You gave a person a loan and he ain't paying it. So you walked into their house to take something. That's called a robber. Even though, what do you mean? He owes me money. He's not paying me. You're still not allowed to do that, to go in their home. They have to give it to you, right? So, but you came, and it was observed by 2 witnesses, right? When he entered, he was not carrying anything under his cloak. And when he departed, he was carrying utensils under his cloak. So he was carrying something, but you don't know what, because it was under his cloak. So how do you know if it was a Rolex watch or if it was, a paper cup? Right? But that he took something, right, that we know.
Right.
So he robbed me, and so then he comes and says that he robbed me, right? The owner of the object, of the home, robbed me of this and this, regardless of whether the robber claimed I never entered his home and did not take anything, or I entered his home as witnesses observed, but I did not take anything. The utensils under my cloak were mine. Or he said, I took this, right? That's what he claims, the robber. I took this utensil, and the owner claims that he took another utensil besides the one he admits. In all instances, the owner of the home must take an oath. So he's got to take an oath, and he takes God's name, right? You don't want to take God's name in vain. While holding a sacred article to affirm his claim, he may then collect everything that he claims. Clear? So when does the above apply? When the owner claims that the robber took articles that one might assume that he owned, or that it was possible that such goods would be entrusted to him for safekeeping, and it's possible for those articles to be taken out by a robber under his cloak, as witnesses testify. So if you say, oh, he took his car, obviously he didn't do that under his cloak, right? Or if he took a big candelabra, right? Yeah, the big candelabra, that wouldn't fit under the cloak. It's too big. Something like that wouldn't make, right? Or something that the guy he doesn't own a Rolex. He's not that wealthy. to own a Rolex, and we know that he had a regular, what's it called? Not time, Timex watch. That's what he wore all the years, He can't claim a Rolex now. Well, I had it, I put it away. Yeah, but you're dirt poor. You have to borrow money, right? So no. So we wouldn't assume that that's what he had and therefore made such a claim. It had to be something that makes sense, right? Yeah. Different rules apply when the witnesses observe a person enter a colleague's home to take collateral, but did not see him depart, or they see him depart without appearing to be carrying any utensil under his cloak. Although Okay. Although the owner claims that the defendant took such and such, the defendant is not held liable, right? Because there's no witnesses sufficient to know that he actually went out with something, right? Remember, this is not a regular robber. This is a guy who's owed money, and the guy's not paying him, and he's going in to get collateral, so he'll make sure he gets paid, right? Yet this is called robbery.
But the owner who's been stolen something from him, he sees the thief doing the action, but there's no other witness.
Yeah.
It's his
Even if, otherwise how could he claim?
Always has to be three people. That's difficult.
No, it's not a question of difficult. It's a question of parameter of the law. That's not a question of what's difficult, what's not. It's a question of what the law is, right? It's not about, when would that happen exactly? Doesn't matter when that would happen. This is the parameter of what the law, and therefore a judge needs to know parameters of the law. That's all, right? Doesn't need to know when it would happen, right? Right. So this applies even if the defendant denies entering the home and thus contradicts the testimony of the witness. The rationale is that if he claimed, I entered his home but I did not take anything, it would be required to support his claim with a rabbinic oath, and then he would be exonerated. For it's possible that he entered the intent of committing robbery but did not. Right? Others, maybe he entered. But if witnesses didn't see that he did anything, and just because the owner of the home says he did, maybe he entered with an intent to do something wrong, but he didn't in the end, right? But didn't do it because that's what you want, Imagine a guy is heated up because he owes him money. He's not paying him. It's due, and he's not paying him, so he's kind of heated up. And he's, I'm gonna show him. Can't do that. Gotta pay me. I'm gonna come into his home and takes, again, which you're not allowed to. But then it could have been original intent, but then he could have not have done that because, in the end, in the heat of the moment, that's what we want to do. But then you kind of say to yourself, no, it's not right. Not allowed to do it. Right. Okay. All right. I'd love to continue, but we have a long road ahead to be successful in our campaign, which I need, again, everybody's help over here. Even if you gave, which many of you did, thank you. Please pass on to others so that they should give. Thank you. God bless you. Actually,
Thank you,
it
Rabbi.
says, greater is the person who inspires someone to give than the one who